Hi, I'm Lindsay, and if this is your first time here watching a video on my YouTube channel, welcome. And if you are returning, thanks so much for coming back. So today I've got another Ask Me Anything question from Anne, and I'm going to be reading bits of it and then responding in parts. So I'm going to start with reading what Anne's question is. So she says, sometimes I really struggle with something I don't like about myself, a habitual behaviour that I hate and that makes me feel ashamed, that often occurs when I'm playing a game or doing a fun new activity or challenge. When I have behaved that way, it always feels unavoidable in the moment, usually prompted by something I see as an injustice or unfair in some way that I need to defend, and I can't let go of, even though I know it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Or it comes from frustration at something I'm rubbish at and can't get the hang of when everyone else seems to be picking it up and doing brilliantly. I always feel terrible shame later on about letting it get to me and whinging about it and vowing to do better next time. I wake up in the morning feeling mortified and say to myself, it's a new day, a clean sheet, react differently this time. I have this vision of the person I want to be and how I want to handle it, and then the next day I might do it again because I'm not that lovely, calm person. So this is a great question and something that I think that a lot of us are going to be able to relate to. So the first point that I want to make is that with any behaviour, and particularly a habitual behaviour, it looks like in our experience that we've got control over that. But I think that Anne, in terms of how she's phrased this question, already knows on one level that she doesn't have any control over it because she's called it a habitual behaviour. And in fact, all of our behaviour is beyond our direct control. Because in any given moment, whatever thinking, thought, cognition, sensation, experience is passing through us that looks real, that's what's going to dictate behaviour and whatever's going on in our subconscious mind. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not responsible for our behaviour, and that's a topic for a whole nother video, but I just want to say that. But we also can't control it. And because it's something habitual that happens repeatedly, I think Anne is already aware of that. So she's seeing that something's happening in the outside world, this old familiar feeling of either the injustice or I'm getting it wrong or I'm not good enough is coming up, and she's responding in a certain way. And in the moment, it feels like there's no choice there. And because in the moment, there won't be any choice there unless the mind or our inner wisdom or our kind of sense of deeper intelligence was able to wake us up in that moment and say and remind us that it's just thought, habitual thought that we're believing. But if it doesn't, then the behaviour is just going to continue, and there's nothing that we can do about that. And the issue really, as far as I see it, is not that she actually wants the behaviour to stop. What she wants to stop is the shame that she feels afterwards. So it's all of the meaning that she has given to this behaviour innocently. She's not done this on purpose, just her mind has done it. It's the meaning that she has given to that behaviour, about what it means about her as a person, about what it means about how she shows up in the world. And all of it is pretty negative, or in fact, it's 100% negative. And so it's not actually the behaviour that is the issue, it's the shame that she doesn't want to feel. And this is so important to see because as human beings, shame and feeling ashamed is a feeling that most of us are going to want to avoid at any cost. So just even at the moment, separating out or questioning, okay, so maybe because the behaviour is the behaviour is fairly neutral, okay? It's Anne's mind that has attached to the behaviour. This means something about Anne. This means I'm not a good person. This means I don't measure up to other people, because she's already said in her question, other people don't react this way, and I feel like I should be able to stop myself from reacting this way. So there's the behaviour happening, and all of the meaning about Anne and about who she is and how she shows up and what it means about her and what it means about her relationships. That's all attached to it. And all of that is just thought in the moment. all of that is made up by her mind. None of it is actually capital T true. But what is really wanting to be avoided is all of that loathing and shame and I've done something wrong that happens afterward. And that feeling of shame is painful for a reason, because it's trying to wake Anne up, or you up if you also experience something like this. It's trying to wake you up to the fact that you are believing a story that the mind is telling. So the mind is over here creating the behaviour, creating all of the thoughts and then the feelings that go along with it in the body. It's over here doing its job, doing what our mind does. And in that behaviour, it then has, as I said, all of the meaning about what it means about Anne going on. And then the feeling of shame comes in. And that's because what if the shame is not actually a reflection of the fact that Anne over here in her mind has something to be ashamed of? What if it's a reflection of the complete opposite? Because the truth of who Anne is, who all of us are, is totally fine, totally whole, totally okay, nothing wrong with us. And because of all this story about the behaviour and how I shouldn't be doing it and it's really embarrassing and I feel all of this stuff, all of that is the furthest from the actual truth of Anne. What if the feeling of the shame is there to try to wake her up to that? So again, just to repeat, not to wake her up to the actual fact that the behaviour over here is something to be ashamed of. The complete opposite is trying to wake Anne up that she's lost in her mind believing this story over here, that you need to be ashamed of this, you should be doing better, you all of the self-judgment and criticism that's going on is true, you should be a better person, you should be over this by now. There's a bit in a minute that I'll read where she goes into this about her son, how her son doesn't do this. And so there's all of that comparison to other people going on. So what if because when Anne innocently gets lost in this story and believes it, the energetic system that we are, the being that we are, needs something else to wake her up to it, to say, hang on a minute, you're believing this lie. You're believing this lie that this behaviour means something about you, that you need to be ashamed, you should be doing better, there's something wrong with you, you are a pretty rubbish person, in her words. All of that is being believed. And because Anne innocently can't see that that's a story, can't see that that is thought in the moment, can't see that that isn't the truth about her, in comes the feeling of shame to try to wake her up, because that's gonna get her attention, because she doesn't want to feel it, as any human being wouldn't. So this is true of not just Anne, it's true of everybody. So what if that is actually what's going on? So the shame is trying to wake us up to the fact that the story the mind is telling is the furthest away from the truth that it possibly could be. So I just want to go back to Anne's question that she wrote when she says, I have this vision of the person I want to be and how I want to handle it. And then the next day I might do it again because I'm not that lovely, calm person. My son, who is lovely and calm, has started picking up on it and laughing at me and teasing me about it, which I hate. I feel so embarrassed. I'm meant to be the adult here. So what we can see in that, again, is that the mind is utterly created this story and this standard of Anne must be, in order for her to be good enough, in order for her to not to have this habitual rubbish behaviour, she needs to be a lovely, calm person, like her son. And there's also, as with minds always do this, they'll find someone to compare you to. I've got this lovely, calm son who's younger than me. I'm the adult. He's the child. He's doing better than me. I mean, what a brilliant way for a mind to really go to town on you and beat you up. Again, nothing further from the truth. This is just a temporary habitual experience that has absolutely nothing to do with who you are as a person, Anne, or to do with any of us if we are experiencing something similar. But what I really want to point out here is that the image that the mind is presenting of this lovely, calm person is a fantasy. It's imagination. It is not the truth of being a human being. There will be moments for all of us when we are able to be lovely and calm, kind, compassionate, And there will be moments for all of us when we feel ashamed, when we feel belittled, when we feel embarrassed, when we feel jealous, when we feel guilty, when we feel mean and nasty. And there will be all of the experience in between that. And that's what being a human is all about, is just having the whole emotional landscape and being okay with it. Now, the mind, because the mind hates any emotion pretty much, doesn't want you to be happy, doesn't care if you're sad, none of it. The mind absolutely wants to present that there is this possibility, it's dangling this carrot of this possible person that you could be, where you are lovely and calm all the time. And it is just, if I was going to swear on my YouTube channel, I would swear right now. It's absolute BS. It is not possible. But Anne, innocently, like all of us, falls for this illusion, falls for this imagination, falls for this trick of the mind, where the mind says, oh, but you could be like this. If you just worked a bit harder, if you were just a better person, you could be this lovely, calm person. Because there's also that assumption built into that all of the emotions over here that we might deem more negative, there's something wrong with them. There's something wrong with feeling them. It means something about the person who's feeling them. And nothing could be further than the truth. They're temporary, moving, energetic experiences. Nothing more, nothing less. So why do we need to push away the ones that we don't like and pull in the ones that we do like? We only do that if we think they mean something about who we are as a person. And the fundamental truth is they don't. Because who we really are is the constant essence, deeper intelligence that's underneath all of that, that's able to witness and watch and be a space for all of this emotional experience, this wonderful life that goes on. We are not those temporary emotional thought, feelings, sensations that pass through the body and the mind. So I'll just read the last part of Anne's question. And so she says, and the critical self-talk and judgment and harsh words I have with myself are so painful. And I know it's just the mind talking to the mind and not necessarily true either. Now, in that moment where she has phrased it and not necessarily true either, that tells me that even though she, in this moment, and she may understand it in a knowing way in other areas of her life, but in this moment, it's only intellectual that this is the mind talking to the mind. She doesn't actually know that, because otherwise she wouldn't be saying it's not necessarily true. And even that inference of not necessarily true means there's some doubt there. Okay, I understand that it's probably the mind talking to the mind, but actually I don't quite believe that in this instance, because it feels really real and true, and it's about me and about how I'm doing. And that's, that's going to happen, because thought and feeling and sensation is meant to feel real and true. It isn't. But we're not meant to be having this flat experience in life. It's like that. It would be like going to, this is a really old metaphor that loads of people have used, but it's really relevant here. That it's like going to the cinema, and if it's a really bad movie, you don't get lost in it. If it's a really great movie, you get totally lost in it and you forget about yourself. So Anne's just lost in the movie there, that she kind of half knows she's in a movie of the mind is talking to itself, but she doesn't know that, because she said it's not necessarily true either. But it feels true, because I really hate this behaviour. And then she says in brackets, which I've had since I was a child, and it makes me feel right back there childish. So again, just the mind adding another layer onto the shame. It's childish. It makes me feel like a child, which obviously is, when we are children, we are vulnerable, and nobody likes to feel vulnerable. So again, it's just a feeling that's wanting to be pushed away. But it's just another layer that the mind is adding, that, not only is your son better able to handle this, but you're being a complete child. I mean, honestly, if someone was talking to Anne like this, I'm imagining Anne would not be this person's friend. So we just want to see it's again, I know that I sound like a broken record, but it's just another trick of the mind. It's just another way, another angle in for the mind to keep you listening to it and to keep you believing it in this whole picture of this story about what it means about you. So the last thing she says is, I want to accept this about myself if I can't change it, but I'm stuck because I really want to react differently and change it, but I keep failing. So I end up locked in battle with myself, which is so exhausting. And no wonder it's so exhausting, right? I'm not surprised, because this, and again, this is where, when we get to this point where things are exhausting and we're really noticing it, this is where we can start to really just pull back and question, okay, what am I believing here? Which is all the things I said above in the video previously. But what I want to point out in this last bit is really about how much resistance there is to this. And often in life, it's just one of those annoying paradoxes that it seems to be, now I don't know this is a capital T true, that it happens all the time, but it seems to me that a lot of the time, the thing that we most resist, it's the resistance that holds it in place. So the fact that Anne has such hatred of this behaviour, innocently, she's not doing it on purpose. There seems to be such a feeling of hatred, such a feeling of desperation for it to change, because it's presenting a self-image of herself that she doesn't like, that actually there's never going to be acceptance of that whilst you're in that level of resistance. And truly, it's only going to be seeing the things that I've alluded to in the beginning of the video more deeply that's going to allow that resistance to soften. Because as soon as you see, well, what if it's really nothing to do with me? What if it doesn't mean anything about me? That's what holds the resistance in place. And if we can question that the meaning that the mind is making, what if that isn't true? And we can just let this behaviour be there and let all of the shame be there and just allow it to be there as much as we can, bit by bit by bit, as we start to see the truth of what this situation is trying to tell us, not the mind's version of it, it will start to loosen. And it does start to loosen. Now, the mind might still, the brain might take a while to catch up with the behaviour changing. The behaviour might still present itself. But the more that you can just be in that process of noticing it all, here goes the, because you would have heard this 1,000 times, here goes the cycle. Here comes the shame. Here comes the self-loathing. Here comes the comparing me to other people. Here comes me comparing myself to my son and feeling like a child. The more that you can just really notice that and let that be there and not be in resistance to it, is where you actually get to see something really helpful about this. So I hope that's been helpful, Anne, and to anyone else who's listened. Thank you so much for sending in your question. I love receiving your questions. So please, I'm going to put my email address up here on the screen. Oh no, actually, I'll put it in the description box. Let's make it easy for myself. And thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't already subscribed and liked the video, please do those things. It really helps my small channel to grow. And thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Okay, bye for now.